It is now time to attach the sleeves. So I have my bodice. So this is my back bodice and my fronts are over there. I'm going to flip them over so that the right sides are facing up. And then we will take our sleeves. I forgot this camera freaks out if I bring things too close to it, so I'm gonna have to try and stay low. If it gets blurry, I'm sorry. Okay, so here's my sleeve. I wanna put the front together. Oops, there I go, going high again. And then make sure that I have my double sleeve notches here to indicate the back, because this is the back bodice over here. And then I'm gonna pin some landmark areas. So I'll pin these corners together. Find my pin my notches together. And then center of sleeve notch. And my, let's move this to the outside. So the underarm of my front bodice and front sleeve, line those guys up. And then my sleeve notch. Oops, I'm off camera, sorry. So, sleeve notch is right here for my front sleeve. And then over to the edge here. Okay, looks like I need to scoot that. Right. And then find my center of sleeve. So if your sleeve had any E's, you can run an E-stitch in it, or you can use some other method. So like the million pin method. Looks like I didn't line that up very well. So the million pin method is you find the middle of one of the two things that you have to match. And then you find the middle of the other of the two things that you have to match. And then you bring those two middles together. And you keep repeating that process. So I can bring the middle of these two together. these two together. And it's just a really straightforward way to distribute your ease, and you just keep dividing things in half, putting half the ease on each side of a pin, and pretty soon, looks like I didn't do a very good job of dividing that sucker up. Let's do that again. There, that looks better. And then once you feel like you have your ease controlled, you go ahead and sew this with 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then finish. Now, if you want to get extra fancy, and or if you don't have an overlock at home or a serger, you can do a French seam on this sleeve. So if you're going to do a French seam on the sleeve, you might want to watch the video where I sew the side seams of this after I have the sleeve in, because I'm going to do a French seam on the side seams for sure, because that's what our sample had that we're inspired by. So a French seam, instead of pinning right sides together like this, I start by pinning wrong sides together. And I sew half the seam allowance inside out, and then I flip it over and sew half the seam allowance again, right side out. So like I said, if you want to do that and be a little extra, you can watch the video about sewing the side seams and do that instead of what I'm going to show you here on these sleeves. Another thing you can do is use any number of the home seam finishing methods that are available. I'll post some of the information along with these instructions that I used in Fash 1A for alternative ways for finishing seams when you don't have a serger. Some of those include some of the stitches that your home sewing machine might have. Some home sewing machines have specific like serger substitute stitches, and I would test those out on some scrap fabric before you commit to doing it to your actual garment. Because like the serger alternative that my home sewing machine has, I don't like it as much as I like when I adjust the zigzag stitch a certain way. So again, that was just trial and error for me, adjusting the zigzag stitch a bunch of different ways until I found something that kind of felt to me like it had the look of an industrial overlock. And I zigzagged the edges to simulate a serger. So those are a couple of ways that you can, or a few ways you can finish your seams when you don't have a serger. So you can either skip ahead, watch the side seam video, and do French seams, or you can use one of your home sewing machine stitches to do an alternative seam finish. So looks like I'm ready to, let's see, this notch goes to this notch, and then I'm ready to start easing. find the middle of these two and pin these two together. And then once I have this all pinned and eased, I'm going to go over to the machine and sew these with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll meet you there.